All right. Welcome, everyone. We're getting all set up here for our live event, animation and augmented reality from the art room with Josh Kern. Just getting set up here. Hi, Josh.
Can you hear me?
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Helps if I turn my audio so I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
And now.
All right, good. How's the audio coming in on these AirPods? I do have a mic, but
No, it's coming in good.
Okay, good. It's a bit clunky. How you doing, man?
Good. Do you have your camera? Do you have a camera?
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
We're face to face here, so my Zoom skills are a bit lacking than I'm sure everyone else is.
Well, and people are going to be very jealous if you're lacking in Zoom skills right now. People are jealous of you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How are things going for you guys?
Good, actually. It's districts are all over the place right now. This kind of in between hybrid and distance learning, and I mean all over the place. So we're kind of just doing it all right now. So, but it is what it is.
Good deal.
So, how are you guys back face to face?
We've been face-to-face since the start of the school year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and just Thailand's done a fantastic job destroying the economy, but saving humanity.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I bet.
So we feel fairly safe here. I mean, I don't really question it.
Yeah,
all that much. So it's good. It's good.
that's good. That's good. Well, I'm excited for today.
Good, man.
Awesome.
Good.
And you should have, if you need to share your screen or anything, you should have your sharing screen privileges down there, and make sure you got those all set up.
Okay. I'm going to be sharing my screen the whole time. In fact,
Perfect.
I'm going to be flipping over to my iPhone as well. And I'm trying to minimize the amount of flipping back and forth just to mitigate some of the confusion.
Okay.
But I'll be walking the students, or I guess the adults rather, through this. But Zoom, wow, I went to the share screen and you could just share whatever you've got connected to it. I've got my device connected to it.
Yeah. Pretty cool, actually, the way that
it's very cool.
Yeah.
I think the last time I was teaching on it, well, the last time I was teaching on it was last spring, but of course I've done a few of these webinars.
Yeah.
Since, but man, it just keeps getting better and better.
It does. It does.
And they had to.
Yeah. I think Microsoft just rolled out, I was talking with a district that's a Microsoft district, and they just rolled out breakout rooms. So they're all excited. They finally got breakout rooms inside Microsoft Teams, and breakout rooms came to Google Meet about a week or two ago for everybody. So that's great to see. So yeah.
Cool.
So we've got two people joining us live here, and I don't know, we've got a couple people watching us live on YouTube. So
cool.
That'll be good. People keep coming in here as we get closer.
Yeah, it's morning here.
I know. What time is it for you? Is this early for you?
7. No, I just did my normal routine.
Ah, that's great.
And we just started finals week today, so I couldn't have been better timing.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad.
I have no kids in my room. I have no kids today.
That's great. And what grades are you teaching now? Are you middle school now?
No, I'm 9th through 12th. So
9th through 12th, high school. Okay.
Yeah, and that's always what I've been.
Yeah,
for the most part.
Very cool.
I did do that 1 year of elementary K through 5, and man, I think every high school teacher's got to do 1 year in the elementary, 1 semester in the elementary, just so you appreciate it, huh? Just so you appreciate it, and just you're working on your holding an attention span.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, we've got about 3 more minutes here. Welcome to those of you joining us. Please make sure you have the chat room open. And when you're at the chat room, you might want to make sure that it says panelists and attendees. You can let us know where you're coming from. It's good to see Rebecca here, Katie, Jackson, Carolyn, all here. And then we've got people out watching us live on YouTube as well. Welcome to all of you watching us live at YouTube. You can also be chatting over in the YouTube chat where we will be answering questions over there if any come up during today's presentation with Josh, all the way from Thailand. So
that's right. 7 a.m.
7 a.m.
Just barely had my coffee.
We're just winding it down on the other end. I love it.
Yeah.
It's just it's one of these things where this is where you love this technology stuff. You just think about when they talk about air travel of the future. I'm like, yes, if everybody knows how to do this, you just think about how many things we can do.
Exactly.
We don't have to. So get on an airplane and all that cost and carbon footprint and everything else to fly. So,
or even just showing up to work.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I even debated just doing this at my house.
There you go. There you go. Awesome. Well, thank you for those of you who are just joining us. If you want to open up the chat, let us know where you're coming in from this morning. A beautiful sunset here in Seattle. You might be able to see the sun on my face as it's setting out the
I was going to ask, is that lighting in there, or is that
actually? Yeah, no, that's real lighting coming in, which is crazy. It's been rainy here, and then all of a sudden, like literally, I'm 10 minutes. What time is it? Like 10 minutes away from sunset, and the sun decides to come out. So that was right in my face.
Nice.
I am not complaining, for sure, for sure. It is what it is, so it's all good.
It's raining in some other places.
Yeah.
Chat.
I've only purchased one tank of gas since April, said Rebecca. I was like, oh, well, I know. It'd be interesting to see how all this goes. My wife and I were doing some stuff with our insurance and called for our on the car insurance. It's amazing how cheap car insurance is when they're like, well, yeah, but nobody's going anywhere. We can lower the rates. I'm like, well, thank you. At least something's going to come out of this. So, oh, Mike encouraged you to tent, huh? Yeah. Well, you're going to like this one, Carolyn. I think this will be a fun one. Welcome from Edmonds School District. Great to have you all here. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to spend some time with us. All right. Well, it's 4:00 and a couple more people coming into the chat. If you're coming into the chat, you're going to want to make sure down at the bottom in the chat, if you're in the chat on Zoom down there at the bottom, you're going to want to make sure you turn that to the little blue thing down there that says panelists and attendees so we can all be part of the conversation and ask questions of each other. So great to have Josh here with us all the way from Thailand today to talk about augmented reality in the art classroom. I'm loving this. This is going to be a geek session for sure. Hopefully you were able to see Josh's little promo video he made for us as well, because that was kind of fun just going through that and looking at things. So I'm excited for this conversation and just get to listen to how you are working with augmented reality and all the cool things you're doing in art class, Josh. So I will turn it over to you, my friend.
All right. Thanks, man. Hey, it's 4:00 in Pacific time. It's 7 a.m. here. And this actually, I was just telling Jeff, this is super convenient because we just started finals week here. And so I don't have any kids. And Jeff said, well, maybe not share that because most of you guys are online learning or some sort of hybrid. And I just wanted to mention to you that my heart goes out to you. Please have patience with yourself. We've been full-time, face-to-face here, but we did have a big taste of that online learning last spring. And so you've got a break coming, just be patient. And thanks for cutting out some time to join us today. I've got a lot to share with you. We're going to talk about animation and creating animations to tell a story. And I'm going to share a few stories with you. All of these are student work. And I'm going to be bouncing around between my computer screen, which I'll be sharing nearly the whole time, and then with my device, which Zoom has now made available to us, where I can click over. And we'll actually augment some work in here that's coming from some English classes, some math classes, of course from the art room, and the elementary school. So this is really something for everybody. And as Jeff said, the title, this is in the art room, and I'd like to change the title that this is actually coming from the art room and it's coming to you. So I do think that this is available for everyone. Sorry, I got a little bit ahead of myself to present. Let me share my screen first. And I'm assuming that we can hear everything okay. And Jeff, you're going to tell me if I am not sharing correctly. So
yeah, everything's looking good.
Forward. Cool, man. And a lot of this information, this is heavy stuff. And so if anybody has any questions, Jeff, if you feel like it's an appropriate time to butt in, by all means, we can cater to anybody's comments and anybody's questions. And if they feel like they've missed something and it's important for them to ask that now for the understanding of, for the sake of moving forward, by all means, I would encourage that, okay? There's no real direct flow. We're just moving through this. So here's my Twitter handle. This is the best and fastest and easiest and most productive way to get a hold of me. This is where I post a lot of the work, a lot of the student work, and just private message me. My goal for you is to take a lot away and then ultimately ask a lot of questions. And this is a journey that didn't just happen overnight for me. We're using tech, and tech can be difficult, and there are different degrees of of softwares out there that can be really, really scary interfaces. And my goal for you today is to really hunker that down, and I've curated a list of awesome technology that we'll use today to really simplify this for you and just make you feel comfortable that this can be applied in the elementary school all the way up into the high school. So a little bit about this picture. We are coming from Thailand. Last year we were face-to-face. And I do come from, well, not necessarily a family of educators, but my wife is also an educator, and we teach here at Rumruti International School. And so last year during quarantine, this is an art piece that I did along with my students. And when you're in quarantine, you grow a mustache. And the art project that I did with the students is you are to select an image, whether it's a photograph or an old artwork. And this kind of got actually a lot of traction during quarantine when we were doing online teaching. Anyhow, I'm mimicking Salvador Dali because when you have a mustache and you're looking for an artist, of course, Salvador Dali is the one who pops up. And so it's not a quarantine mustache, it's a Kern stash. And what animated or animation webinar would be complete without an animation with the mustache? And so the thing did get rather long. I did use the software to create this along with just my camera. And I'm going to share that software with you today. It's like I'm building this software up like it's this huge secret, really expensive, nice thing. And it's actually not, it's free. And you probably use this already. This is just frame by frame stop motion animation. I think it's maybe about roughly 80 pictures or so. I just literally drag and drop them into this software, and it pieced it together for me. And we'll share that with you. So what I want you to do for a moment is, if you aren't acquainted with augmented reality, or if you didn't get a chance to look at my trailer, this video is going to really sum it up for you. We're looking through a screen recording on a phone, and I want you to imagine walking through an art gallery, and all you see is blank pieces of paper, but all of a sudden they come to life. And the student is paying attention here, doing lots of practice, mastering the contour continuous line drawing. So you'll notice that her pen never lifts up the paper. And all this is just a screen recording on an iPad. And so there we have our animation, we have our movie. I love it when that person walks in the back there, because it's like, whoa, is this really real in real life? What's going on here? And so you walk into a room full of art, yet there's nothing on it. You have to bring it to life. And I just love that piece. Or imagine opening up your yearbook and it comes to life, and it can tell you a story, can recap the year. Maybe there's some conversations going on between the two. And so this is augmented reality. And it's actually been with us a bit longer than this is not a new concept here. So what we're going to unpack for you today is, the takeaways are, you're going to learn how to make an animation using a cheat with this really simplified software. And then we're going to take that animation and plug it into the free augmented reality software, so you can be doing these exact same things that I'm showing you. And so if you are listening to this as a podcast, which I do often, whether I'm driving or if I'm running, this is one of those heavy hitter visual podcasts or webinars where you might want to hit pause and come back and join us, because a lot of what I'm going to be doing is showing you these artworks come to life and see how we can apply them across the school. And I'm going to break this up into 3 parts here. They're all about equal parts, about 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. And so I'm going to start with some free resources that I use, and I have a curated list for you. And then we'll look at what industry is currently already doing with augmented reality in terms of industry, tech, science, marketing, and even what your device in your pocket is already doing, maybe unbeknownst to you. Then we'll break it down into a how-to tutorial. So this is that other component where the visual webinar is going to be really key for you as I create a real quick animation, and it's going to take about 10 minutes to do it, and I'll guide you through it. And then we'll wrap this up with all of the cross-curricular examples and how I've managed to tie this in and encourage some math teachers, English teachers, history teachers, social studies, and English combined with artwork. And all of these classes are creating. We just haven't managed to find a great way to share their creations. And I've been in a long search to figure this out for classes like that. Because in math, they're actually making beautiful graphs and, what we've got to map out dealing with calculus. And I'm going to share that with you. I've already said too much. So here is a list of scary softwares that are really in my back pocket. As an art teacher of 15 years, a digital art teacher, teaching things like graphic design and even animation and 3D modeling and animation. These are things that I've had to learn over the years and become good enough to teach them. So we use a lot of these in our augmented reality, but I'm going to simplify this for you in this webinar, and I'm going to cut it down to just these 5 right here. And the things that I'm going to share with you today are just using what you're seeing on your screen. So the software I keep talking about is actually just Apple Keynote. Apple Keynote, if you're not familiar with this, I'm sure you're familiar with Microsoft PowerPoint, and I'm sure you're familiar with Google Slides. Apple actually has their own version of slide presentation. It's called Keynote. It's free with an Apple login, and it's a web-based program so that you just log in onto the internet. You can work offline as well. And the awesome thing about this is it connects to an app on your phone, just much like PowerPoint and Slide does. And so you can do a lot of your production through your device. And if you have an iPad with an Apple Pencil or something similar to that, a tablet with a pen, you can actually draw your creations on this. And so Apple Keynote for me has been the answer to this scary complex softwares where you need you need to be able to draw, you need to be able to create these graphic design characters, whatever the case that it is. But the interface is very complex and scary. The tools are not intuitive. And on the rating of level of difficulty, I would give them my rating of 5 being the most difficult. Where Keynote is actually, I don't want to say robbed of those tools, but they've managed to integrate these tools in their software. And many of us aren't even thinking of these presentation tools as a place to create artwork, to create even animations. And so it'll be my attempt to share that with you today. Ijac Creator, the one on the right that you're seeing on your screen, is what we'll use to augment our artwork. And what you're going to do is download this in 2 places. It's 100% free. They have a lot of really, really cool resources. It's a really, really well done website for explanation, and then sharing just some examples that you can actually print off and then augment yourself. Beautiful artwork. You want to download this to your computer. Doesn't take up a lot of space, doesn't run, it's not really in your way, it's just kind of behind the scenes there. And on your computer is where you will kind of build your augmented reality. It's going to take all of the information and then just kind of say, okay, now you can go ahead and use this. You also want to then download it onto your phone and the app, because this is where you're going to be augmenting the artwork or whatever the case it is that you want to augment. And so this list here, Jeff, I'll make this available to you because I want to make sure that everybody has access to this, because some of these things are hyperlinked. This is going to take you to a long curated list. I never want to say that this list is finished by any means. In fact, it's just a Google Sheets. Maybe one day I'll make some sort of interactive infographic where it's clickable and you can filter this in a search of, hey, I need something to animate, and they need it to be relatively easy. You can filter it. We're not quite there yet, but this is a huge list of tools. And it's paid, free, and then I've even curated it in terms of some of the free apps and softwares. How do they correlate to some of the other Adobe paid big hitters of the industry in terms of creations? And then I also went through and then created a level of difficulty list. So 1 would be very easy to use, 5 would be very difficult. And this is not just with animation, graphic design, there's anything that you're using to create. Think of this as a creation list, and I'll provide that for you. Just to also refer back to, if you need to refer back to this webinar, of course it will be recorded, and you can look at some of the tips and tricks that I share you. But I also have a YouTube video that will explain this in less than 10 minutes, the demonstration component, which will take about 10 minutes here today. But if you need to use this as a teaching tool in your classroom to share with your students, this is where I would then turn you to, or turn your students to. You can flip the classroom with your students. You could have them look at this at home. This is a great thing for online learning because this is a video tutorial, and they're going to understand everything that they need to build their augmented reality. So you can refer back to this slide as well. Use that as a teaching tool. Oops, got ahead of myself here. Just want to hit pause here. So this is how did I get started? Well, I got started actually with this New Yorker magazine, and it goes back even further. There is a really wonderfully done docuseries called Abstract on Netflix, and it highlights creators, and it kind of breaks down their thought process and their creative process. Well, this artist, Christoph Niemann, I saw this about 4 years ago, and he is a graphic designer, and he was creating this cover for this magazine. And this is where I first became really acquainted with augmented reality. And just last year, when I had to transition into my new teaching role here at Rumrudy International School in Bangkok, I was, of course, the new teacher here. And so they pegged me with, well, yearbook. I'm the yearbook teacher. So when you're new, you're the yearbook teacher. And, you know, it didn't hurt that I had a background in art, and it didn't hurt that I had a background in digital art, right? And so I've never done this before, but well, you know, I can do this, I can manage. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, let's do this. Let's do something different. Let's bring this to life. I've seen something like how we can make this come alive before. Where did I find that? And so I'm going to share this with you because it was where my inspiration came from. But I also want you to pay attention, if you're still foreign to augmented reality, what it can do. So she's going to pick up her device. You'll see that the static image in our real life is just unanimate, and then she can bring it to life using the device there. And so we can use this in a way to tell stories. In this case, this is really trying to capture New York, the subway. The yellow and black in there is symbolic to the cabs, and all of the cabs that fill up the New York streets. And he even mentions talking about the subway door opening and closing at the beginning of that animation. And so when our kids in our classroom are thinking about animation and what stories they're going to be telling, of course, this is going to be circumstantial to your science room, your math room. But what's great about animation is that they have to slow down, and they have to think about, how am I going to tell this story? How many seconds am I going to give to each bit and piece here as this shows in front of my audience? Is it going too fast? Is it going too slow? Are my colors too saturated, et cetera, et cetera? And so they are asking those creative questions as they're producing something for someone else to be consumed. And it's awesome. And they're already doing these things with the devices in their pockets. In fact, you know, the kids with technology these days, these animations, these video recordings, they do these multiple times throughout the day. In fact, I do it. I make Insta stories, Facebook stories. I'm sharing things, bits and pieces, kind of in a linear trajectory. And sometimes I add animations to them. Sometimes I add filters. And so this is nothing foreign to them. In fact, students these days and age were born into technology. They don't know anything different. And in fact, they're not coming to school hoping to use, I think, the tech to create, but I think now they're almost turning to an expectation. And so I don't think that this is foreign to them. If it feels foreign to you, they're going to pick up with it really, really fast. So after the magazine cover, this is what we took to the art room, or I apologize, the yearbook room. And so the breakdown of this is actually a quite complex animation, and I don't want you to be comparing this like, this is what we're gonna learn. This is used we used Adobe After Effects to create the animation in this, which is the industry leader in motion graphics. And the kids, what they ended up doing, and this is awesome, they worked through some of the things I was sharing with them in Keynote, and then they said, well, we can do better. And so there's something for everyone here. Once they get the idea of how to create in these oversimplified softwares, it's like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? And this is what we were able to create. It was very, very hard. It's very clean. The product is clean, but what you're missing in the behind the scenes is figuring it out and telling our story. So the other thing that they wanted to make sure that I pointed out is that the hands on the clock were actually 2020 if you're looking at military time. And so it starts at 2020, and when it actually hits back at 2020 and unlocks the code there. And so they're unfolding some Easter egg stories inside something that's very, very short, 14 seconds. And the song that is playing along with that is they're learning about using resources other than, just information, like how do you credit a site, how do you give attribution to it. This was sound that we're learning to now grab sound and pay attribution to the people that created the sound. So we're no longer just looking for the written word, so to speak. So this is this is Snapchat rather. Getting my Insta chats and my Instagrams mixed up. So this is augmented reality. You're using this already if you're using Snapchat. And I don't know if this is still the rave here, but the phone is augmenting your face. It's scanning the contours of your face and it's applying the filter to the face. And so you're already using that. Kids are already using that. And that's what I apparently look like with the filter of with the 4-year-old on it. Warby Parker is monopolizing on that same technology, using this to allow their customers to try on frames before they purchase them. And so we're starting to see these trends show up really everywhere. And so I think augmented reality is, whether you like it or not, it's coming at you in a very serious way. And I'm going to unfold a few more ways.
I saw something like this the other day, just popped up in Amazon. I was looking for a piece of furniture in Amazon, and it now has a button that says, see this in your room. And you literally can click on the button and you put your phone up in your room and it'll show you what that piece of furniture looks like in your room. So this idea of, being able to see digital stuff in our physical spaces, like you were saying, we're going to continue to see it, morph in more and more different ways. And you think of something like that, where you can see furniture in your room before you buy the furniture. What does that do? Or try clothes on, right? Try your glasses on. Like, you can do this stuff. And we're getting to a point where it's getting really, really good. And how do we get our kids connected into that?
Yeah, it's crazy. And there are literally thousands of these videos I'm sharing with you today. It's like we could spend the whole webinar just looking at like, whoa, they can do this. Whoa, they can do that. I do have a furniture one I'm going to share with you, but you mentioned the thing about clothes and trying on clothes. I mean, we've gotten to that point, and this is why I'm saying it's a bit scary for some who are like, well, can't we just go into the dressing room and try it on? And some people think of that as maybe lazy, and you're cutting that part out of it. But you can actually now stand in front of a screen and select the article of clothing at the store, and it will just go boom. And it's like, that's what it looks like on you. Now, of course, you don't know how it's going to fit, and you're missing that element of, well, it's not going to fit to the contours of my body. But what I'm getting to is augmented reality, and virtual reality for that matter, is, even though it's still new and there are some aspects of it being clunky, they're very quickly fixing those bits and pieces that are clunky and streamlining it. So this is going to be embedded into your everyday life. So when we think of Meet George Jetson and all of those things that we see inside the episodes of Meet the Jetsons, that's coming our way. Oops, I want to get back to this one here. This is using this in industry. You can see that he's wearing glasses so he can view the things in front of him. And this is from a company called Euphoria, and they build AR systems to train workers to learn about wiring. Well, you can see it here. Imagine what doctors will be using in the future. You know, it sounds a bit scary if they're going to be operating on a heart. It's like, which vein do I cut right here, right? But we talk about it now and laugh about it now, but it could be something that could be coming our way. And so when we talk about preparing our kids for the future, I think that this is it. This is an augmented reality window shield developed by Ray. And so imagine pairing this with your Google Maps. I mean, I live in Bangkok. It's a huge city, and I don't know Bangkok very well. In fact, you can be heading down one road if you don't know it very well, and all of a sudden it's dead end. And so I live and breathe with my Google Maps. And imagine driving in a car and it's actually directing you where to go. Maybe there's an advisory warning coming your way. And with our self-driving car technology, I don't think that this is too far off. A couple more examples. Oh, there was my Google Maps. I really wanted to share this one. This is 19 Crimes wine bottle. I'm just going to play while I'll play it and talk over it. You can see how the wine bottle is coming to life. There is actually an Adobe software, Adobe Character, an animator, where you can do these sort of things. They do have a free version where the characters kind of mirror with your camera, they'll mirror your face. And so you kind of like a Snapchat filter that I showed earlier. What I really like about this is, of course, it's kind of cool and exciting and a novel idea, which might wear off. But what can we do with books? I think immediately literacy, and I think students creating book reports where the book cover is actually, you know, the book hanging up is the art hanging up in the walls, and you have to then augment the book cover to then unlock some of the synopsis, the character synopsis that the student was writing about. So remarkable ideas and connections that you can make to that. And I've got a couple more here. I realize this is visual heavy here, but I wanted to really paint a picture that this is the wave of the future. IKEA has their own app. Download it today. You just it's getting the contours, trying to figure out what's flat there. Go ahead and shop, place it in there. Ooh, we like the yellow, turn it this way, and voila, there it is. It's in your room. I love that guy's face. He's like, what just happened? And this is the last video here, and I'm going to cut into some examples. But I love this because this was filmed in 1989. This is Back to the Future. And they've got a little bit of a sneak peek already in 1989 of some version of augmented reality VR. This is nothing, no one knew anything about this, but the creatives who made this movie had this idea of, well, I think in the future these things will come at us. And here we are, it's here. And so when we talk about those things and we laugh about them earlier, 20 years from now or 30 years, I think it's going to be a reality. So I'm going to share with you, I'm going to move over to my phone just so you're not confused, because what I want to do is walk you through some ideas that I've started out when I teach this. This is what I use to teach augmented reality and animation to kind of introduce the concept, and then we move from there. And so even if you're in the art room, in the math room or the science room, this is kind of the introductory level. So Jeff, if my screen from my phone, and I gotta love Zoom with these updates it's made to be able to connect my device. So there's my device. I'll allow this time to actually allot some time here to introduce the Ijac app. You can see it there. Well, let's open it up. This is where it might get a bit clunky. Okay, perfect. It's on my screen. All right. So this is what it looks like when you get to the home screen, and we're really paying attention to the icon on the bottom left right here, this eyeball that looks like it has a thumbprint in it. But you can snoop around here and get a lot of the free artwork and toy around with that. It's awesome, very intuitive. This is going to open up the camera, and on the bottom left icon is where all my assets are. And so the augmented reality is not just going to turn on. We have to first get it into our device, and then we have to flip the switch. And so this is some artwork that was created in my classroom. And I guess I got a little bit ahead of myself here. I'll show you the artwork, and then I'll show you what we're going to create today. I'll skip through some of these here. So when the students are, I've done this op art lesson for years, and I was thinking, well, okay, what can we do inside the art room to apply some of this augmented reality? And so when the kids are creating this, which a lesson that I've done forever, now we're thinking about embedding something that will come to life. And so now when they're creating the artwork, they're also thinking ahead, well, what will I be able to augment in the future? These are the very first ones that we've done, and the students have actually let me hang on to these so I can share them. And these were done last year. This is just the introductory level stuff when this was all just very, very new, even to me. And since then, they've just gotten so much better now that the examples have shown up, and they can kind of see what can we make. Now it's like, where can we push this next? This is what I use as the teaching tool, the transformer. This is really the very first thing that I augmented. And the reason why I did the transformer is because of the easy polygon shapes, the angles, the geometric shapes. It's easy to recreate in Apple Keynote, which I'll demonstrate to you in just a moment, and then animate. And so this is painted on just like a piece of painting board here. And let's go ahead and augment this. And this is what we will do together today. So this comes to life. These are just simple shapes drawn on a slide deck, and then they change colors and flash. So I can move this around. It's amazing, the tracking on this. Even this app has gotten so much better within a year, its ability to track and follow this. All right, so let's jump back to my screen, and I'm going to talk about how this works. At this point, does anybody have any questions? I realize this is like, whoa, this is a lot of stuff coming at us. And while I'm getting this ready, Jeff, we can field some stuff here.
Well, I think one of the questions is the idea of a phone. Now, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but this stuff is, you usually make it on like a computer in the school, but you view most of this augmented reality is viewed through a phone. Because here in the States, Rebecca was saying, you know, here in the States, we're not really allowed to use our phones. Like on my personal phone, I can't use it to do schoolwork. But if I'm using a school laptop, like you're saying, I'm using the creator side of the Ijac app, or I'm using, you know, Apple Keynote or Google Slides or whatever it is. I'm doing that work on a school-based computer. But the augmented reality part is usually an app coming through the phone. And in that case, you're just using your personal phone to view the thing that was created.
Correct.
You're not actually putting anything on your phone.
Correct. Yeah? Correct. Okay. And as I get to this next part, we're going to be talking exactly that. What roles do the devices play? How does the computer play into this, and how does the device play into that? And so, yes, this is, and I totally understand and respect some of the, maybe not respect, but the school decisions in minimizing mobile devices and allowing them in the classroom. And if your school or district is pretty strict on those rules, this is still very, very applicable for you. We're going to create this all on a computer, and you're correct, Jeff. We're just viewing it through the device. Yep. And so, bringing, let's say, math, art out into an area where phones are allowed during lunchtime. Now, students can then think of like the main hallway or foyer in your school. Maybe there's some artwork hung up, and phones are allowed in that area. This is where students can view them. Yep, exactly. Cool. So I guess I got to get back to my screen. And Jeff, let me know if things are not sharing.
Not looking good.
Okay. All right. So this is Keynote. If you're not familiar, again, it's just like PowerPoint. It's just like slide. It's free with an Apple account. Here we have our slide deck on the left. We are able to add shapes in here. We are able to add media. I was just sharing with you a Google slide where you were able to interact with a lot of videos. This is no foreign territory to any teacher and even student, which is why this makes this so great. Everything that I just shared with you was created by using this. And everything else that I'm going to share with you, 99% of it was created using just Apple's Keynote. The reason why I prefer Keynote, and I do teach this on Google as well, Google Slides, but the reason why I prefer Keynote is because some of the other tools that I can find in this that I can't find in the other ones, and we'll get to that. And the tools are compared to the tools that you would find in Adobe Illustrator, which is the industry leader software in graphic design. But that's a scary software, and no student has time to learn that, especially in And even in art classes, there's no time to teach Adobe Illustrator unless, of course, you're in a graphic design class. So how does this work? First of all, you need two things to make this work. You need a trigger image, and then you need an animation. So rolling back to the mustache picture, what happens is the camera on your phone looks at the trigger image, and it says, okay, I recognize that, play animation. And so maybe you're thinking, well, that's kind of like a QR code. And if you were thinking that, you're exactly right. The trigger image in the software, how it's coded, the program says, oh, I see the trigger image, let's cue that animation. So our job today now is to provide a trigger image for Ijac Creator, and then our job is to create an animation and then also provide that to Ijac Creator. So I'm going to demonstrate that for you right now. And I've done this a few times, so there's lots of things that I would love to share with you in this software. And I'm going to have to bite my tongue because I want to say it can do this and it can do this. But for the sake of the webinar and moving forward, I'm just going to go through them. You can always pause this at a later time. And of course, I do have that YouTube video tutorial that you can rely back to for yourself, and also encourage your students, if this is something that you're going to apply into your classroom, they can refer back to that. So to help you simplify this visually, I'm going to delete those slides because we're going to use this slide presentation to create our animation. Here's the artwork again. And I put the rulers next to it because what we need to understand is the aspect ratio, the X and Y axis, and how they relate to each other. Because what we don't want is to create a square piece of animation that fits on a rectangle piece. And so you need to first start by planning out what is this going to actually go on. And so now we're getting back into when students are creating their stories, they have a beginning, they have an end. And then how do we fill in the middle? And there's going to be a lot of surprises along the way. So there's a lot of planning that is involved. So I need to remember this, 792.1116. And I need to mention these points here. You have to do a conversion. Apple Keynote uses increments called points or PTS. And so you can't just plug in 11 inches and it will work. So you need to just do a simple conversion on the internet. So 792.1196. So let's change this slide size, custom 792.1116. Hit OK, and boom, it is now changed. And so now we'll use this slide. I'll get rid of this one to help it be a little bit visually easier for you to understand. I'm going to zoom out so you can see this. I'm going to now drag this out so it fits inside our frame. And you can see it fits in there quite nicely. I'll jump to this one because I'm not going to do everything here. That will take a long time. And just like any good cooking show, they already have their measurements of their ingredients already measured out. But let me introduce you to one of the best tools around, and this is why I love Apple Keynote. This is the pen tool. We're going to add some shapes to this, so I'll click on the shape. The pen tool is located right here. The pen tool is a very, very robust tool. As I click, it drags out this line, and I'm just drawing a simple shape. Inside Illustrator and inside Photoshop, this is the tool that most artists use to create their digital artwork. And so we're thinking, okay, well, that just made a simple geometric shape. And yes, it did, but then I'm going to show you one way how we can wield this line into creating some organic forms. And so these primitive shapes are shapes that are used probably the most inside Illustrator, the pen tool, and then one other one I'm going to share with you. So you're saying, well, that didn't really match that organic edge here. But when I put my cursor right here, I can now bend this line in an organic way to make sure that it matches. In fact, I can add another one here and then activate another one in between that. And then what I really love about this tool is I can double click it and it creates this angled edge. And so when your students are creating in here, they can, and if you just look up Apple Keynote artwork, there's a lot of beautiful things that people have created, not for animation purposes, but for just actually, flyers and posters and drawings through Keynote. You no longer need to pay for that big version of Illustrator. So I'm going to draw one more shape. Let's get this one out of the way. This is that part where I was saying, if you're joining us in the podcast, this is really the visual component of me kind of walking you through the process here. We'll put that back. And here's another tool that really is used in Illustrator a lot when you're building, is how do we connect these two shapes and how do we use them to interact with each other? I'm going to use that to punch that out right there. And now we have a hole in that. So I could do that in all of these other areas. I'm not going to do that for the rest of this because I already have it prepared here. And so since I don't need this slide anymore, I'm going to grab it here. And oops. Right now, the artwork that I'm sharing with you is just geometric shapes. We're putting geometric shapes on here. I wanted to simplify something for you. This is what I use when I teach the students to draw on this. It's an easy way to introduce that. But some of the other artwork I'm going to share with you is a little bit more in-depth and dynamic than just these shapes right here. All right. All right, so let's duplicate the slide on the left a few times. So I have a few versions of this. And I'm going to hop to this one. And I'm going to then change the colors here. I'll do this just once around. Just changing colors. Because remember, what we were animating was just the flashing shapes. All right? And so you can see how when I move through the slide deck, we're doing what's called stop motion or frame by frame animation. And a lot of the frame by frame animations, softwares out there, they use the same idea here. So who knew that a slide deck could be used to do stop motion animation? And kids are already using these slide decks. And so I would then copy and paste this and then repeat the steps. And I would want to end up with 100 slides. And you're thinking, whoa, wait, I got to do this 100 times? And the answer to that is no. I have another prepared slide here. And what you need to do is maybe do this even just 3 times. So if I have 3 different ones here, great. What I can now do is take these 3 and I can copy and then paste them over and over and over again. And so when I hit the down arrow, now it just flashes. And so this is just used as a quick teaching tool to get students to understand, hey, we can animate in Keynote, and then we can also use this to learn about how to create an augmented reality art piece. So what I love about Keynote too is it's exporting options, and Slides and PowerPoint also has these options as well. You can export this as an animated GIF. I know for Google Slides, you have to do an add-on, but there's a hack, a roundabout way of getting to it. And so I have 102 slides, and I'm going to export this. You can even export this as a movie, which is also something that we use a lot. An animated GIF. And I have 102 slides here. So, and I'm going to make this small. I would normally do it large, but I want this to build quickly. The Ijac creator demands that we use 24 frames per second. And this slide right here, the slider is telling us how quickly does it transfer from one slide to the other slide. And so if we do it 1 second in between, this would take 103 seconds, and we don't want that. Right here, this would do it in 1 second. And right here, this will do it in 11 seconds. And so 11 seconds sounds good to me. And then I can hit OK, and that already exists, and it's going to build that for us. Jeff, while this is creating, I'm going to open up Ijac Creator. Do we have any more questions about Keynote? Any questions about Ijac Creator that we can use this time to?
No, we were just kind of talking over in the chat. Just what are some different devices that people have available to them? A lot of schools still have iPads, and I don't know. Does the Ijac Creator? Is there an iPad app for the creator side of things on the iPad or?
On the iPad, no, there's not. Well, I take that back. I haven't explored those options. I think you can always access kind of a browser in the iPad to then do that. But as far as it building it, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, most of the time what I find is you need a full-fledged computer because, I mean, it's some heavy creation going on, you know, and like you say, like even just, you know, exporting it as a, you know, as an animated GIF or a movie or something, you need some crunch power. a processor that can crunch some data. So
exactly. This is the Ijac app, or I apologize, the software on the computer. I just opened it up and I unfortunately clicked past that slide, but this is literally easy as 1, 2, 3. It just had the 1, 2, 3 up there. Add your artwork, which is our trigger image, quote unquote, our QR code, which is just the picture that you've seen me using. I'll hit open. It's going to upload it and we're going to approve that. Looks great. We'll hit next. And now it's time to add our animation. The beauty about using a GIF or a PNG is now the software has made advances, even since I've been using this, is you can now do transparent backgrounds. And so it really makes the augmented reality look like it's laying flat on whatever it's augmented on. So those of you who understand transparent backgrounds, that's something that you can put in your wheelhouse. Let's go ahead and put the GIF in there. This is where we have an option to add sound. And we've got a lot of our sound bites. You can go to freesounds.com or org, I believe, and download some of them, even attribution free. Lately, what we've been doing is we actually have a Shutterstock subscription because we like to toy with it. And then this is that other element where if you want to have your students create sound for that using free things like GarageBand to create kind of the underscore for this, that's that whole other side. Adding music to tell your story. And we know that music can add suspense to it. And so if there is time for that, I would encourage that creation. But of course, it is easy to teach students about, hey, we use this sound? No, you can't use that sound. And so just talking about digital literacy. All right, I'm going to switch to my phone here so we're not confused. I want to let you know that I'm doing that because we just saw right here, we just saw the artwork there, and now we have a QR code. We see this QR code once, and you actually want to hang on to that QR code. So I always take a screenshot of that QR code. And this is the one element where it kind of makes this less intimate. But I think as we've talked about, trends in AR are only going to become less clunky and a bit more easier for us. So I'm going to click the bottom left app, and thankfully it connected for us. Move that to the side. All right, and I'm going to show my screen right here. You can see that, and now it's uploading it into my device. It will just take a mere few seconds. I can practice viewing it on my screen there, and then I can take you over to the artwork right here, and now it comes to life. We did all this with Keynote, and put this to my face here. We did all of this just with Keynote. So some of you might be thinking, well, you know, those animations and shapes might be somewhat easy. You know, how do we get some of the bigger heavy hitter art? And how do we apply this to math, et cetera, et cetera? So I would like to take some time to actually share the cross-curricular activities that I've been doing and working with in the math room, the English and literacy, as well as this huge advocacy art campaign that we've been working hard with, social studies, English, and then also one of our clubs here, the Amnesty International Club. Get that out of the way. All right, first one I would like to share with you, and then I have one that I don't have the artwork to augment, but I'll flip back to my slide presentation and I'll share with you the social studies. And this is where our elementary students, grade 5, are coming in and creating some of this. They actually painted their own trigger image and then created the animation. So this right here, it's not activated because I haven't turned it on quite yet, but this was an identity project piece that was connecting the students to a literary figure, which actually could be nonfiction as well. And so this is a student's, and this is not their actual artwork, these are just printed versions of it. But these are their initials, and so these are hanging up, and you're meant to use your device to then bring them alive and they tell a story. This one is I'm not going to give it away right away. I'll allow that to activate both those. See if you can guess who this nonfiction character is that they're kind of connecting with, looking up to, maybe they idolize or as a hero. She was relevant, in an unfortunate way, right around, I believe, October. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was kind of a hot on our minds at the moment, who passed away this year. And her collar, which has kind of been a symbolism of her and her kind of her advocacy for women in everywhere, and kind of an empowering thing for this student to be mindful of that, make that connection with her and create that. So that was a really neat thing to share with her. She created all of this in Keynote, the shapes, even the animations. She just used the pen tool to then warp those shapes around. So after she created them, she then was able to re-edit them. And got to talk about some of the principles of animation. This one comes to life. This animation, every now and then you have a student who's like just really, really good at art, and they can think beyond Keynote. This is the 1% I wanted to share with you that actually wasn't created in Keynote. This is a free software called Krita, K-R-I-T-A. It's on my list of free tools. This is one of my most favorite free drawing apps out there. And it's also my most favorite free frame-by-frame animation. So she created the background once and then actually drew the fox frame by frame. She may be an artist, but she's never animated before. And she was really excited about this. And look what we opened up for her. Not only was she able to tell a story about a literary figure, which I'll share with you in just a minute, she now opened up some more creative ideas in which she now has a skill set and she can share those ideas and even possible career paths for her. So in Japanese culture, she was sharing with me that the fox is known to be a bit mischievous. And I said, maybe, is that a comparison to, like, in American culture, we kind of think of a snake as something that is maybe a sneaky creature. And she said, yes, it's mischievous. And I kind of joked with her. I said, well, are you mischievous? And she said, no, but she maybe wishes that she was a little bit more mischievous. So that was her connection to that. In the math room, this one was really fun to create. I had this vision of the creative process behind this was really, really fun because I'm not a math person. In fact, when I went to college, and I forgot to mention to you guys, I'm from Idaho, so I'm not too far from you. In fact, us Idahoans like to consider ourselves Pacific Northwesterners. I'm sure there's a lot of Washingtonians out there saying, yeah, right, bud. But at University of Idaho, I actually had to write the letter of the College of Ed, hey, I can't pass this calculus class. Can I take stats instead? And they, of course, approved that, and here we are as an art teacher. And so when I went to the math class, I said, well, what can we do? What artwork can we create in here? And many of them were really, and including myself, were drawing back to that original contour line drawing where they could actually scribe math equations and then solve them in front of us. And we did that, and that was pretty cool at first, but the novel idea quickly wore off. And I said, well, we're creating, in math, you're creating these complex surfaces. What math is that? And they said, well, that's calculus. And I said, okay, show me that. And so they entered some equations in the graphing calculator, and they showed some of these weird surfaces. And I said, okay, what's that useful for? And it's like, well, if you're creating an airplane, you want to be thinking about the aerodynamics of an airplane. That's calculus. That's how you map that out. I was like, oh, that's what calculus is. And so we put these equations on pieces of paper. You'll notice that we had to fill the border in with something because we needed Ijac Creator to have a stronger trigger image so it could lay flat on it. And so that's why that is in there. Let's go ahead and turn on the augmented reality. And so that's what that equation is making. And this is actually derived from a free Geobra web app. And we took this one step further. I teach a 3D modeling and animation class. I know it's a little bit unfair that we have access to this stuff, but this is that 3D modeling and animation was created through Blender, which, if you're not familiar with Blender, it's a free open source 3D modeling and animation software. And I teach a class. If anybody in here today is interested in some unit plannings, I have a whole semester of stuff mapped out, and you can get your kids involved in this, or if this is something that you want to study at your school. And so we're really applying the math equations and sharing, well, hey, this equation, we use that to build this. And I just really thought that was awesome, especially from someone who has a hard time connecting math beyond just basic arithmetic in my world. The last art piece I want to share with you today, this one is still, we're currently working on finishing these up for the semester, but I do have 4 I want to share with you. This is an advocacy campaign that we're working with 2 classroom groups that will already work together. That's the social studies and the English classes. And this is an advocacy, kind of like, think of it as street artwork as well. And so think of the school littered with these. This is A3 paper, which is, I don't know, 13 by 19 inches. And so these are big and they're plastered everywhere, and they all look the same, but they all have a different animation to them. And to make them unique, each student will then come in and fill in this area right here to make theirs unique. So we know, hey, this one will animate this and that one will animate that. And our advocacy campaign, Jeff, I know I listened to your podcast. You one time mentioned that on Indeed.com, there's a job out there where if you can tie data with motion graphics or infographics, and if you can share data in an aesthetically pleasing way, you can make $90,000 a year.
Yep.
And so that was actually a big component which we were tying to this campaign, where I thought, well, if we're going to be talking about something, let's put some data back with this. And so let's use our skills in animation and see if we can share something. And so all of this was created inside Keynote, even that motion graphic of that graph moving up.
Wow.
Is animated in Keynote. And then the image there, this is about 80 images of someone taking a picture of this bag moving around. So some of these are tied to Amnesty International and human rights, and some of them are just, just for a cause. So that was one student's take on how can we add data into this. And that was their first take on it. And I thought that was really good. Imagine what they can now do in sharing data in a class where you collect it yourself. And now when you collect that data, how are the students going to share that data? Because a lot of times that data just goes, well, we proved this assumption, and then it just kind of closed doors. So where can we take that one step further? And to me, it just feels so right.
How many class periods does it take to make something like that? Like what's your, like, you're saying that this is the end of semester for you. And like that one piece you just showed us, how many class periods, how long is that unit in order for a student to make that?
So this one was probably, we have 60-minute class periods here. That was 1, 2, 3, 4. That was about 5 classes.
Okay.
In all. But that's part of that is just the introduction and thinking about it.
Yeah. So that's from beginning to end. So about 5.
Right. And then teaching the animation in Keynote. And right. I can do the animation in Keynote lesson with the transformer in less than an hour with the students. Yeah. They can make that product. We can get through it in 10 minutes. They can make it in another 20 minutes. And then the idea has connected. You don't need much more time than that.
Has this stuff started taking off in your school as far as, are you seeing these starting to be up in the hallways where kids are pulling out their phone and seeing what's behind the image, or are you getting there
Absolutely.
Yet? Yeah,
absolutely. Cool. The first time we did this, it was kind of dead. And so then we needed to figure out where is the space that this is going to be shared. And then the moment that you see students with their phone out, then it's like, hey, wait, you've got your phone out? What are you doing over there?
Yeah,
and it just catches on. The other thing is I love the spoof of, and I'll just let this play and I'll talk over it. This one actually doesn't have data in it yet. This one just has, the animation in it. For some reason, all of those activated. This one just has the animation, and this one's coming from Amnesty International.
Wow.
And so that's their logo on Amnesty International. And so then they'll add their motion graphics in there. But this is all made in Keynote. They made about 5 slides. They made 1 slide of this, and then made about 5 different variations of that flame flickering, and then just repeated the process over and over and over again, and just kicked it out. But my favorite thing is, I can't wait to hang these posters up, because a lot of people are going to be looking at these blank pieces of artwork and wondering why there's so many together in a lot of places of the school, and they're going to be asking questions themselves already. It's kind of like the blank artwork when you walk in there and there's nothing on it. Oh, yeah. You have to interact and augment it.
I remember when QR codes were starting to become all the thing, and I was at the International School of Bangkok, I started to hang up QR codes all over the school and with nothing on them, just like hanging up pictures of QR codes. And if the kids figured it out, it actually said that I would buy their lunch in the high school. So it was pretty fun, just as a way of getting kids interested in what is going on. But I love this. Like, look at this. What a great way to, again, explain data, right?
Exactly. And I think that's, at least for when I was in school, it was one thing to collect the data, but then like, what do you do with it? And I think I had a hard time in those classes, at least for me. And a lot of kids always ask, you know, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And I'm not saying that this is the answer, but data is such a powerful thing, and our world is actually ran by it. Yeah. And so I think when you can really make these connections to them. I do want to point out that this one was created in After Effects. So we had a student who was interested in it. We found some really quick, easy tutorials. Someone who didn't know After Effects found something, hey, how do I make this flag wave? And the next thing you know, it just took off from there. And so it's exciting when someone says, well, hey, how can I take this one step further? This one was 100%. This one's about the refugee crisis in the Mediterranean area. This was all created in Keynote. This graph that you're seeing moving around, and I do want to
What a great, just another way to do a really cool presentation too, you know? Rather than
exactly.
Presentations.
And I'm hoping that voice is going to come up here. I was just going to share that these all have voices on them. There we go, I just muted it. This is actually one infographic created in Canva. I'm going to share the back end of this one here, and then we can kind of wrap this all up and chit chat a little bit if it's necessary. All right, so I'm going to disconnect from my phone, and I'm going to take you back to me.
And there was another question, like, are there any apps?
Share screen.
Crystal is asking, are there any apps that that you don't need a trigger? Do you know any apps that you don't need a trigger image for, that the AR stuff just kind of shows up in real life? Like we were talking, like in Amazon.
One last example. This is my elementary artist, and he created this boat here. And I'm going to stop it there because I don't want to show his face because he's an elementary kid there. But even though there was approval from his parents, he painted that picture of the Bismarck. This was done by a 5th grader, and he had to do this report about a particular event. And he was fascinated with battleships and boats. And it was actually a Nazi Germany boat during World War II that I had learned about. Really, really neat story. And he was able to then create some artwork that actually came to life. Had the boat not actually been sunk, it was something that was supposedly going to be a pivotal point in the war. This was like the unsinkable boat. Think of it like the Titanic. And so what a cool story. I had no idea about that. And I was able to listen to that through the use of his report and then ultimately through his artwork. I did hang these up real fast, even though this is incomplete art, because I wanted you to kind of get this visual idea of what that might look like in a school. And imagine students holding up their devices and augmenting this. And so we've covered a lot of information here, and I'm hoping that I've actually just prompted more questions from you. Nothing that we need to answer today, but some of those internal questions of how can I start applying this to my room? Can I apply this to your room? And that's the reason. My answer to that is I think so. I think it's yes, with the ease of what free softwares that we have in our back pocket already, and the ones that the kids are already using, like Keynote, like Slides, like PowerPoint, and exporting these as GIFs. It's awesome. And so we've talked about some free softwares. We've talked about what industry is already doing and bringing our way and what's coming our way in the future. We looked at some examples from the art room. We looked at how to create animation in a very simple software. We looked at how to use Ijac Creator to create the augmented reality. And then we looked at some cross-curricular ideas. I want to bring this to the table. If anybody has any questions that they need fulfilled, need answered to help them move forward. If there is anything, I'm not anticipating anything, but I'm here for you. I'm available to you. And if you don't have time now, or if you feel like you don't have anything now, please hit me up on Twitter. I'm happy to walk you through anything.
Awesome. Yeah. And I don't know if you heard my question before. Can you hear me?
For some reason I can't hear.
Oh, you can't hear me.
There we go. There we go. Sorry.
Okay.
Yep.
So Crystal was asking, do you know of any AR software that doesn't need a trigger? So it works more like a Snapchat, or like I was talking about with Amazon, where, I guess it would have to be in the app on your phone and you'd show it in the real world and your AR will show up there.
So I have two solutions to that. One is, learn code. That's the awesome thing about learning code. And that's not a realistic solution. But the reason why Snapchat works is because they have coded it into their software to be able to read the contours of the face and then apply that. So that's in the back end. And IKEA has all of their furniture assets already loaded into their app. And so when you show that on your living room floor, it says, okay, that's the surface. Now I already have the information in there. And so to remove that QR code, what we have done in our own exhibits for artwork is we've taken a classroom set of iPads and we've loaded all of the iPads up with the information. And so the QR codes are removed. So anytime a student comes to the art exhibition, they can take the iPad and just hold it up and it will automatically ignite right there. So that's how we've removed that. Yeah. What I'm thinking in my head, and that's the first question that's always asked. I knew that one was coming. What I'm thinking though is there will be something in the future. That to me is like the one part that's clunky. That I'm guessing is going to be gone. Yeah. And when and how and who's going to do it, we'll leave that to the people who are really, really smart in the back end of coding.
Yeah. Well, I even think about I use a Google phone, and already built into the camera, just the camera app on my Google phone is like, I just point my camera at any AR code or QR code, and it automatically reads it. And, now even in Google Maps, my Google Maps, if it's up in front of me, it automatically is showing me where to turn down the street, kind of like what you were showing in the car. Rebecca had a question. Do you know who owns the work that kids make when you upload it into an app like Ijac App? Do you know any of the permissions or privacies on that?
Are you asking, does Ijac now own the artwork?
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
You know what? And I should actually know the answer to that question. I don't know that.
Okay.
But I don't think that there's any big privacy issues in there. I think
as far as I know, there isn't. Yeah, either. Yeah, I think it's just used more. It's just a gateway. It's a gateway to get the trigger to the actual, piece of art that it is.
Right. They don't want, in my eyes, they don't really care about, your artwork unless you're actually using you work for that, or you're promoting Ijac Creator.
Yeah, and I just think about marketing in the future. Around even things like you were showing, like even things in a magazine, or I could see. Sitting in a doctor's office and everybody has their phones out like they do now, only that you're reading something in a magazine that's coming to life, or, there's so many ways that you can do this. Or I'm just thinking, to your point, the yearbook of the future. What is the yearbook of the future where, you have the picture of the basketball team, but then you hold your phone over top of that picture and it plays part of the video of the game-winning shot,
You just connected the dots, Jeff, because in our yearbook this year, we actually have that in our page. All of our basketball games are live streamed here, and we have a group of kids that are actually filming that, the connection that we're making with our sports pages. We're actually having some of the department pages where I have the one art teacher and the other art teacher, if you can think of the Brady Bunch matrix, where you look down and interact. And so it's almost now, like I said, with technology, kids come to school hoping that they're going to be using it and learn and using what they already know in the classroom. I don't think it's going to be a hope anymore. It's going to be turning into an expectation.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. So many possibilities, so many great things. Thank you for the Ijac app. I was using Erasma and then they kind of faded out. So I'm glad that I've got another app that I can start making this with. I did this in one of the professional development trainings that I did. We used Erasma, which is very much the same thing like Ijac App. But we were doing wine tasting at all these wineries in Walla Walla. Being from Idaho, you probably know Walla Walla wine. And
5 hours away.
Yeah. And so we would go to different wineries, and there would be some trigger. And so everybody would have to walk around, try to figure out what the trigger was. And then they're behind the trigger was usually we'd gone in a week before and we'd had the owners of the wineries record the story of how the winery came to be. And so you would have to watch the winemaker tell the story of the winery. And then at the end of it, it popped up a Google form link and you had to take a quiz that auto-graded itself on whether or not you heard the information about it. Was such a cool, like professional, but it's all real stuff you can do. Right.
And it was intuitive for you.
Yeah. You walk into a place, you get a story to hear and it was built in. I had built-in quiz right there. That was automatic feedback of, did you understand the learning? Just different ways that you can bring these things together.
And the reason why it was intuitive for you is because we live in a world where we use our device to kind of navigate. And so, I would say 5 years ago, this would be extremely clunky. How would the students know how to use this? How would anybody know how to hold their phone up? And now, like I said, it's just an expectation.
Yeah.
I do want to, and I don't have this on my slide, and I'll actually post this on your Twitter account, your Facebook, et cetera. But there's two people I want to give a lot of credit to helping me in my journey, and that's Paul Hamilton is one of them, and the other one is Lindsay Dives. Lindsay's doing a lot of things in the elementary school, and you had just given me this idea. She's using augmented reality to do some escape room tactics. And so they have to move around. And so the entertainment value, she's doing it for learning. And so the latest thing that she's been doing is the kids can take a journey to Mesopotamia. Sure. And then there's some sort of escape room tactic where they have to unlock this certain key to move forward and talk about engagement.
Yeah.
Engagement level.
Wow.
So it's just remarkable. And then Paul Hamilton is kind of this guru who I've been following on Twitter. And he's really the one who's answered a lot of my questions. In fact, he left education to do full-time consulting with tech and augmented reality. And he's now applying a lot of it into the three-dimensional space, kind of like what we were seeing with the IKEA furniture. And so there's one place to start, and I think it's just with this two-dimensional artwork. I'm sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
No, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. With fifth grade, like how long did it take to do the project with fifth graders? I'm just trying to help teachers figure out like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, like what's the timing that this takes?
So with the grade 5, it's every class that I've done, and even that young, it's taken one class period, which is about 50 minutes, to walk them through the stop motion animation. Many of them they've been drawing all their lives, and they kind of have an understanding between doing the flip book of the ball kind of moving around. And so that's really, really intuitive for kids. And I was really impressed with, we understand that next. Okay. And so what if we use the slide deck here and then animate it? And so, using the transformer is one idea. In fact, I kind of laughed with the kids. Are like, whatever transformer, we're going to do whatever we want.
Yeah, that's right.
To get things bouncing around. And
Mr. Kern, that's boring. You can do so much better.
Yeah, exactly. So they get it right away.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They get it right away. I've done this as early as 4th grade, and I don't know what those younger years look like. I did teach 1 year of kindergarten through grade 5 art, and I can kind of envision that maybe grade 3 might be that cap year where it might be a bit difficult to create.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for everything. Thanks to you for sharing all of this. Again, the slide decks, Josh will get us the slide decks, and we'll make sure that those are on the website over at Shifting Schools, where you will be able to download that, click on the links, get his, the list of programs, free and ones that you can pay for if you're not into the free thing and you want something that's a little more secure. There are plenty of paid apps out there as well. So thank you. Thanks for taking time. Thanks for joining us here all the way from Thailand. Kap Kun Kap. And and bringing me back to my days in Thailand. It's great.
Yeah, that's right.
Good luck with finals to all of your students, and we'll see you in the future. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Kap Kun Kap. Sawasdee Krap.
All right. Well, thank you, my friend. It was great.
Yeah, man.
It was great.
Whew. Good. I was a bit worried about I know your webinars are a lot of just talking.